Welcome to the 10th International Management Conference. Yours truly is Dr. Amando P. Singon Jr. of Higher College of Technology, Muscat, Sultanate of Oman. I am happy to share with you my paper entitled Application-Based Test Blueprint for a Summative Classroom Assessment. Effective classroom assessment should be given emphasis in higher education institutions, that is, to re-examine its assessment paradigm. One of the most effective ways of changing how and what students learn is to change the way teachers assess them. A higher education institution must have its own well-established examination procedures, such as the use of a test blueprint as a tool to prepare test questions. In this session, I am going to highlight the development of a test blueprint that can be used in a classroom assessment. In a classroom assessment, the teacher who teaches the course is the same teacher who prepares the exam. The results of the exam are used to judge the learning performance of the students and to inform improvement of the teaching-learning process. In this session, I'm going to introduce a simplified test blueprint that could help other institutions to design their own format that could effectively meet their own preferences and needs. Teachers are the key people who can make or unmake a difference in the learning experience of the students. Along with this line, teachers must have adequate training or exposure on the dynamics or processes of assessment within the institution of higher education so that classroom assessment will enhance and not impede teaching learning process. The development framework is illustrated on the screen. The interaction design model was adapted in development of an application called a simplified test blueprint. This model is a user-centered paradigm of development that involves 4 stages. Intended users are actively involved throughout the stages, keeping in mind the users as the center of the development. This user-centered approach to development makes all the phases intertwined with each other, which may permit the developer to have the opportunity to flashback and address the user's needs and preferences. There had been a constant and systematic searching of pieces of evidence through multiple sources of information to form requirements. Alternatives had been considered at every point of the application's development. This is the core activity of designing a piece of application that is coming up with a number of creative ideas that meet the user's requirements. We also have prototyping that had helped to understand the user's real needs and preferences. This is the most sensible way for users to evaluate applications designed through interaction with the prototype. We also have evaluation, where usability problems had been encountered but later uncovered and fixed until such time that the application was found to be up to acceptable level. However, evaluation is an ongoing process that sustains the usability and acceptability levels of the application. If some requirements or elements are missing or require improvement, then these are fed back and shall be addressed in the preceding stages. Designing a test blueprint greatly relies on the insights and feedback of the intended users. The roles are interplayed in a collaborative manner in order to come up with a consensus of feedback as basis in decision making. Throughout the development of a test blueprint, there had been a great deal of time and effort in coding and decoding feedback, brainstorming, interpreting and analyzing user requirements, executing trial and error, pilot testing, and much of scaffolding and offering of support among the users. What exactly is a test blueprint? It is difficult to trace the inception of a test blueprint. However, the book of Rouge, entitled The Improvement of the Written Examination, made some arguments that supported objective tests. A test blueprint is sometimes called a table of specifications, test specifications, test matrix, or test plan. Some various descriptions of a test blueprint are shown on the screen. According to Cruz and Singun, a test blueprint is an assessment tool which interlinks what is taught and what is tested. It is also a fundamental block in test construction, which makes use of the Bloom's taxonomy of learning framework, which ensures a fair, complete, valid, reliable, and objective set of test questions. Suski describes a test blueprint as the structure of a test. It usually includes the content areas along the left side of the table, and the cognitive levels are shown on the right side across the first row of the table. While Gaske sees a resemblance between a test blueprint and a travel guide, it helps teachers move students towards the mastery of standards. Different versions of test blueprints are designed for different purposes. A test blueprint can either be simplified or complicated to best meet the needs of the intended users. Hence, the formats of test blueprints may vary depending on the needs of the institution. For instance, a test blueprint can be used for a formative assessment or for a summative assessment. A formative classroom assessment provides performance feedback on what students have mastered, how much they have learned and have to learn, how well they are learning, and what needs to happen next. However, the test blueprint shown in this presentation is used to construct classroom summative assessment, wherein grading or assessment of learning is a key concern. Using the interaction design model, the simplified test blueprint had been developed. The test blueprint was developed using a spreadsheet as shown on the screen. The test blueprint should be filled in by the course coordinator in collaboration with the course lecturers. They are collectively known as the subject matter experts, or in short, SMEs. Manual data entry is avoided by providing selection boxes. Upon selecting a course, predefined data automatically appear, such as nature of the course, level of the course, and the required ratio between the lower ordered thinking skills and higher ordered thinking skills of the course. Take note that the allotted ratio has been predefined. The total exam marks should be selected from the given options. This gives the required total marks between lot and hot ratio. For a 40-item test of a 20% lots, it gives 8 required total marks. This value was derived using the formula shown on the screen. On the other hand, with 80% HOTS, it yields to 32 required total marks. This value was derived from the formula stated or shown on the screen. The first two columns of the test blueprint contain the chapter number and the chapter title. The SMEs identify what chapters to test. These chapters have subtopics that are by default had been mapped against the course learning outcomes. It is a common knowledge that students are tested to achieve the course learning outcomes in order to ensure that they gain learning. Most direct evidence of student learning is focused on learning outcomes. The next column contains the percentage of chapter weightage. Course learning outcomes are taken into consideration when the SMEs are assigning the percentage of chapter weight of each chapter. The expert knowledge of the SMEs takes note of the significance of each course learning outcome when assigning the percentage, as there are some course outcomes that had already been previously tested, which are less important to be tested over and over again, unless otherwise required by the SMEs. The next column contains the weighted marks, which the spreadsheet automatically computes using the formula shown on the screen. The next column contains the actual allotted marks, which sometimes bear decimal values, so the SMEs are given the flexibility to either round it up or round it down or keep the same value of the weighted marks. And finally, we have the level of difficulty column that shows the lots and hots columns. The actual allotted marks of each chapter should be distributed between the lot and the hat columns. The sum of the values of the lot and hat columns should be equal to the actual allotted marks. Otherwise, there is a red mark that appears at the bottom of the table, which calls for the attention of the users, which indicates that the total of the lot hat values is not equal to the actual allotted marks. So, changing 11 to 10 removes the red mark as shown on the screen. Anyhow, teachers should challenge the students to use a variety of ways of thinking and learning, preferably the HOTS, which include critical thinking skills resulting to a lasting learning retention. High-level cognitive processing engages students into a deeper approach of learning. On the screen is the completed test blueprint. Upon approval of the test blueprint, the mapping matrix as shown on the screen has to be completed before writing the test questions of the exam paper. The SMEs should design it according to the approved test blueprint. The types of exam refer to the different formats of test questions such as multiple choice, short answers, application items, and many more. It should be noted that all types of item formats can be used to assess thinking at both high and low levels depending on the context of the questions. The question number, otherwise known as the question item, is entered indicating the corresponding chapter number. The taxonomy of learning is very essential in test construction. The test blueprint focuses on the cognitive domain, which refers to the knowledge development that enables the teacher to check if the students have the ability to exhibit their acquired knowledge. The teacher must decide whether the item should be tested either at a low or high cognitive level of learning. Despite the revisions on the taxonomy made in the mid-90s, Bloom's taxonomy, or the old version, is still the most widely applied one in use today. The 6 principal levels of the cognitive domain are knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. The cognitive levels of the Bloom's taxonomy of learning are sequential, which means to say that the higher level accumulates the knowledge and skills that are previously acquired. In other words, each level is a subset of the higher level. The cognitive domain of the taxonomy of learning is subdivided into 2 partitions: the lower ordered thinking skills, or LOTS, which comprise of the knowledge and comprehension, and the higher ordered thinking skills, or HOTS, which comprise of the application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Some studies include the application as part of the LOTS. However, it is the discretion of the institution to categorize application under either LOTS or HOTS. Jono and colleagues claim that application level often falls into both categories. The total marks refer to the weight of each question number. Under the mapping matrix is an automatic display of the test blueprint and the mapping matrix. When the SMEs have completed the mapping matrix, the next step is to write the exam question items that should be in perfect harmony with the test blueprint and mapping matrix that had been previously completed and approved. In view of the discussion in this session, I would say that regardless of what tool has been used in the preparation of classroom assessment, it is noteworthy that the evidence of student learning of a summative classroom assessment should be used and be reused for the improvement of instruction, curriculum, or academic processes of the learning institution. Here is the list of references used in this session. For further queries, please email me at amandosingun@hct.edu.om or asingun@yahoo.com. Thank you.